Hey guys, it's Mike again, here doing what I guess is our seventh blog, and this is focusing on the teachers. I guess the assignment was to interview our cooperating teacher, who I'm going to call Mr. Trent for privacy purposes. So today, while I was at school, I interviewed him and asked him a few questions, which I wrote the notes down to right here, so I'll be kind of reading off of those, I guess, as bad as that sounds. But the first question had to do with planning and how he plans as a teacher. He actually uses the backwards planning method, which is awesome. It's the idea where you start with the big idea of, I guess, the lesson, what you want your students to learn, basing it off of standards, national and state, and all that stuff. And the objective is to start with that and work back smaller, so backward planning, and eventually you get to the point where you're planning out your lesson, make PowerPoint slides, all that stuff. And I think backward planning it's a great tool because you start off with the big picture kind of thing. You start off with what you want your students to understand, and from that you gather, I guess, the understandings, and as you go smaller, you can get into more detail about what you're actually going to teach, specific content-wise. And yeah, honestly, I haven't really been introduced to anything else yet, so I might just be speaking because this is the only thing I know. But I think backward planning is the way to go, and that's how he does it. And this week, actually, I'm going to be helping him backward plan the upcoming unit on the post-American Revolutionary or post-American Revolution United States, which would be pretty cool. It's all that Constitution stuff, so I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, that's how he, I guess, plans his classes. And in terms of, we talked about those standards. I guess the impact of standards for him, he likes standards, and I like the idea of standards. The implementation of No Child Left Behind, it can be, we can go on and talk about that for hours. But the implementation of standards and their impact on learning, I think it's overall a positive thing. And so does he. He sees them as a great guideline for, I guess, content. What content should be taught in schools. It really hits home on the important topics, especially in history and obviously other classes, but in history that you need to teach to help the kids have a better understanding, especially in U.S. history, of how the United States became, what it is today. So he's a pro standards guy, and the funny thing is the impression that I've gotten, having gone through a few classes and whatnot on standards, is that standards are seen as a negative thing, but I guess the implementation of how these standards are used is seen as a negative thing. But overall, the standards are a really positive thing, which is a distinction that I had trouble making when I first started learning about this stuff. His teaching philosophy is based a lot on mutual respect. So he will have respect for the students as long as those students show that mutual respect to him. I'm not saying that if a student is being disrespectful, he is, going to go off and, I guess, do something that's inappropriate in terms of behavior management. But it is his classroom. There are a few rules. It's few basic ideas, and he really runs with that. And I think that it's good for the kids, because if you have a long list, I understand having rules, but if you do have a long list and you write out 100 rules that these kids need to follow, I mean, how many of them are they really going to follow? It's better to give them a guideline like he does, and address problems when they come. And from what I've experienced in his classroom, it's worked out very well. And that, I guess, that those same behavior management standards are held when I teach, and the kids have been great. I've been well received by them, and it's nice. Just because there are very, very, very few times where I actually have to stop class because a kid is acting out or being disrespectful and stuff like that. And I think that comes from the groundwork that he's laid in his I guess in his management of the classroom. And I guess speaking of behavior management skills, I guess we kind of went over that as well. But let me just reiterate. You know, it's his behavior management is based on mutual respect. If he's having a problem with a student, you know, it just never really he gets angry. He just keeps a nice calm tone of voice. If he needs to send somebody to the office, he doesn't yell. It's very calming. It's nice because I've been around teachers that will get angry and will yell at students, and most of the time it's not the way they want to be treated, and it's not going to prevent further I guess problem behavior that you know you'll see in the classroom later in the year. So I guess I like the way that he approaches it in terms of the whole mutual respect thing with the students. And I also talked to him about stresses and strains that I need to be aware of as a new teacher. And the big thing that he told me and that he experienced, I guess, as a young teacher, and I've actually kind of experienced some myself, is being able to plan accordingly for your classes as well as having time management skills. You know, I've taught obviously a couple lessons to our class in when we have on Tuesdays, and I found that time management where I don't have too much of a problem with it. You just need to be cognizant as a new teacher, because if you talk too long about a certain topic, it jeopardizes other topics that need to get talked about. But at the same time, if you don't talk about it enough, you aren't hammering home important content and understanding points. And also, you can end up with kids in your class that don't have the expectation to constantly be doing activities and learning in the classroom, and it gives them time to kind of mess around and get rowdy, and that causes problems in terms of the behavior management department. But yeah, I guess the last thing I talked to him about is how he, I guess, separates his school teacher life from his life outside of the classroom. And the one thing that he told me that is drastically important is that you need to have two different worlds. There needs to be the teaching realm and then your personal life. And it doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of mixture of the two, but there need to be two distinct aspects, because he said that he's seen teachers go absolutely crazy because they are unable to not necessarily distinguish, but separate one life from the other, and it becomes too stressful and kind of have a mental breakdown kind of stuff. But yeah, he definitely, I guess, hammered home the point that if you don't have a separate life where you can get away, for instance, I don't know, go play golf or something, or have a family time, it puts an extreme amount of stress on you as a person and potentially others around you that will affect how you end up doing your job. And if you don't do, if you aren't fully into teaching and you're being distracted, how often, or as how much is it going to take before you're not a teacher anymore, because you can't get your job done, you can't teach to the standards, you can't get all those important points across to the students that they understand. So I guess the overall gist of that is to be able to remove yourself from teaching when need be, so you don't absolutely go crazy. But yeah, so that's what we talked about. It was a really cool interview. I didn't have, I guess, a recording device with me today, so I couldn't record the actual interview. But like I said, I took some notes and basically just explained it to you guys. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I will see you all next time.